Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Mary Beth at the Law of Attraction Club on the web at theloaclub.com. On these hangouts, we collaborate with our friends Tara. This hangout is the summary of our theme for the week and continues with Q&A on our member conference call. You can get invites to our open calls, which we offer about once a month, and our free letting go process by going to theloaclub.com. So now, Tara will be coming through Robin, and so we welcome Robin and Tara.
Welcome. You've probably heard the joke about the tourist in New York who asks for directions on how to get to Carnegie Hall. And the laconic reply is, practice, practice, practice. If you want to be a seasoned practitioner, an experienced and confident practitioner of creating new things in your world, then you have to practice creating new things. If you're not practicing new creative thoughts, then you're practicing old creative thoughts, which means you're practicing status quo. If you practice status quo, you get status quo. If you always think the way you've always thought, you'll always create more of what you've already created. So today we're on about practicing new thoughts. And we'll begin with perhaps the most important question of all. What's real and what isn't? Because it cuts to the heart of it all. You cannot answer this question without coming hard up against those other questions of who you are and what you're doing here. So let's explore this thing called reality together here today and look at the mechanism that creates it and how you might change it. We may end up reinforcing what you've already chosen to believe, or we may challenge you to see things in a completely new light. We'll see. As always, make your belief choices based solely upon what feels good to you. And as always, we welcome your questions and comments. So how do you decide what's real? We've talked recently about waking up from a dream. Although some dreams may have a profound effect upon you, you inherently know that the physical world you have just re-entered is somehow more real than that dream world was. And we talked about the experience of what you call death, and said that most of you will experience death like waking up and knowing that the world you just came from is somehow less real than the world you have stepped into. What is it that happens during that transition that has you inherently knowing that one is more real than the other? What is it to, quote unquote, know something? And what is this thing called, quote unquote, reality anyway? Let's pause for a moment here. Think about what you consider to be real. Notice how you're holding that thing called the real world. Good. Now here's our perspective. Here are the 3 law of attraction facts of life, the fundamental principles that describe your existence and our existence and all the existence of all things in all realms everywhere. Number 1, you're a timeless consciousness or awareness, an extension of the isness of all that is. Your thoughts are what create you as an individuation of that isness. 2, the virtual reality context that surrounds you is always a match to those thoughts. as are the versions of everybody and everything that intersect with you. 3, when you feel good, you're aligned with the greater you. And when you're not feeling good, you're creating what you do not want. Here's some words from our friend Abraham. What knowing is being in vibrational alignment with something. Because when you're in vibrational alignment with it, it's manifesting around you. When you expect something, when you really know it, when you expect it to be, wanted or unwanted, then it bees. Law of attraction is just showing you again and again what you are expecting, what you are believing, what you are knowing. But all of those words just mean what you are vibrationally equivalent to, what you've been practicing. You are the creator of your own reality. From Bashar. You must simply remember in everything that we discuss that your outer physical reality is not outer, it is inner. It's just a reflection of you at every given moment, individually and collectively. So if you find as you view your outer physical reality that there are things about it that you would prefer to change, all you really need to do is change something about yourself. And you will see that change takes place unerringly and effortlessly. And all your explorations and all your ideas, no matter how they may magnify scientifically or otherwise, are all going to be the result of the way you change the idea of how you see yourself and what you know is possible in your dimension of experience. You're a conscious thinking entity. You imagined yourself into a physical you in a physical world, and then you forgot who you are and settled into the idea that your current world is somehow real and anything else is just a mental construct. Well, you're not a physical being. Your experiences live in the realm of thought, and so your experiences are real. But that physical world of yours is a virtual reality. And what's more, it's your own personal virtual reality, unique to you. No version of it is more or less real than any other version of it. It's just the particular stage you have chosen and upon which you play out your story. Your belief choices define everything about you, your physicalness and the shape of your consciousness. So belief choices are creative actions. A new choice means a new you. And as you step into that new existence, by law of attraction, a new version of reality wraps itself around you. Can you see that reality and beliefs are one and the same thing? And this is not some sort of vague metaphor. This is the literal truth of it. And those choices and changes are not constrained by anything except you and your imagination. You can change anything. You can step into a new future without limit. You can even step from a new past. There is nothing you cannot be, do, or have. The reason that physical world around you feels real is that it's a mirror of you. By definition, of all the possible versions of reality that could exist, this one you inhabit is the one with which you are perfectly aligned. You interpret that alignment as feeling real. When you choose to transition to something new, the context you step into will always match that new you. If the change is profound, as in the expanding of your consciousness in the death experience, the degree to which your new reality will feel more real than before is the degree to which that expansion has occurred. Are you beginning to comprehend the limitless nature of your creative power? Let's then look at where you go from here. Let's talk about how you change your reality, which means how you change your subconscious tapestry of expectations. What do we mean by subconscious? It's not the here and now thinking part, making potentially new choices. It's the huge part of your consciousness that makes most of your decisions and controls most of your actions and reactions. And it bases all of that on your past choices. So now the question comes down to, how do you rewrite that tapestry? How do you retrain your subconscious into supporting a new and more desirable version of you and your world? Let's look at the basic mechanism. The relationship between the thinking conscious you and the subconscious you, by exploring the driving analogy we used recently, but this time in a little more detail. Think back to when you learned to drive. Actually, you already knew how to drive because you watched people do it over and over again. So what that learning really was simply teaching your very powerful subconscious how to do it in real time, because your very limited conscious processor is simply not able to keep up with all of the sensory input and decisions and actions needed. So that teaching took place slowly and carefully on a deserted road or parking lot. Now when you drive, you can do it with no conscious thought at all about the mechanics of driving. So it is with your life. As you learned, made belief choices about things, you stored them away in that immensely detailed subconscious tapestry of expectations, mostly never to be thought of again. That tapestry is like a blueprint from which your world is constructed. That and that alone defines the reality into which you wake up each day. Nothing in your world changes until you make a new belief choice and replace that portion of the tapestry. Let's look now at how you do that in our driving example. Suppose you live where you drive on the right, like the USA, and you fly to where they drive on the left, say the UK, and you rent a car. If you now leave the driving to your subconscious, it's going to get much of it wrong with serious consequences. So you don't. You take conscious control of some of those aspects of driving that are now very different. It requires intense focus and practice for a short while as you update the learning process, and then in a short time, you're relaxing once again into that easy way of operating. You've retrained your subconscious. It now knows what you now consciously want. This is what you call being in alignment. Again, so it is with life. Firstly, be aware of how you're feeling, which points you to the pieces of that subconscious tapestry that are no longer serving you. Then you have to decide what you want. You can continue to live with the lie you chose back when, or you can have the life you now choose. The choice is yours. You can't have both. To make a change, you have to take back conscious control of some of those decisions. It takes focus and practice for a short while as you update the learning process. That's the quote-unquote work. But once you've enrolled your powerful subconscious once again as an ally, once you've taught it the new rules, you've literally stepped into a new version of you and into that new matching version of reality. Again from Abraham. Everything that has ever been lived, everything that has ever been written down or documented has been vibration first. Everything has been conjured in vibration first before it manifests. So if something has manifested and you continue to give it your attention, the fact that it is true should really hold no weight with you. The question that we would ask is not, is it true or is it undeniable? The question we would ask is, how does it make me feel when I focus upon it? And if the answer to the question is, it doesn't make me feel very good when I focus upon it, then we would say, true or not, it does not serve you. And if you will activate a different part of your vibration, the truth will shift. So let's talk about shifting the truth. And we'll come back to where we started. Practice, practice, practice. If you want to be a seasoned practitioner, an experienced and confident practitioner of creating new things in your world, then you have to practice creating new things. If you're not practicing new creative thoughts, then you're practicing old creative thoughts. We want to repeat that. If you're not practicing new creative thoughts, then you're in that moment practicing old creative thoughts, which means you're practicing status quo. If you practice status quo, you get status quo. If you always think the way you've always thought, you'll always create more of what you've already created. Practicing status quo is something most of you do a lot of. As you go about living day to day, you spend a lot of time, perhaps almost all of the time, treating the world as if it's something you have to deal with as it is. Now, we're not at all proposing that you should opt out of this game of life on earth, but here's what we are proposing. Cultivate an ongoing awareness of who's in charge. Get yourself making declarative statements and mentally or even verbally out loud add the words, in this world that I am creating, etc., as a universal prefix. Actively change your habits of thought with the same intensity of focus you would use driving that rental car in London. Practice new ways of thinking. If it is truly your desire to create new things in your life, you can re-engage with what actually is real. It's like learning all over again to live in oneness with the facts of life, with the truth of who you are. And from that place, as you pay attention to creating the new things you want, and as you practice those thoughts, and as you watch them begin to appear around you in your context, you will feel like you're floating downstream into a wondrous world. And you are. And now in this space we have here, in this intersection of our world and all of your worlds, we will expand on all of this and then engage with your questions.
This hangout on air was a summary of our theme this week. We do 3 live calls a week with questions and answers for our members on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You can become a member by going to the LOAclub.com/join. Our longer discussions continue now with our Q&A on our member conference line.